many times are being asked to be a playmaker when they may not even be a playmaker. When we talk to some of our clients and we say, well, you've got your product managers you're asking them to do playmaker activities, 40 hours a week plus, there's not a playmaker bone in their body.
That's not where my energy is. And if you're putting someone like me and I have to go and listen to everyone's opinion, I have to make sure everyone's happy, to make sure, that's hard work, really hard work. It takes more energy than it gives. But if I have to do it, I'll learn how to smile and have patience and all the skills that must come along with it. But it's not natural. It's really hard.
The equation for impact is proclivity plus skill set equals impact.
Welcome back to another episode of People of Product. My name is George Brooks, and I've got a special one for us today because for those that are long-time listeners, you may remember this guy named Daniel Linhart, who's my business partner and former co-host. He is back with us today for an incredibly special conversation. Dan, I'm glad you're here with us today. Excited to have you back.
I am, I'm just happy to be here, George. It's good to see you in this realm again. Yeah.
In this realm, we see each other a lot every day. So
I know, but yes, it's true.
I get it.
Yeah.
But today we have a special guest with us, and I'm excited because we've really spent a lot of time and energy, and now we're starting to implement it with some of our services here at Crema on a new tool, a new ethos, even around the way that we think about our work and our teams and how we collaborate. And I'm not gonna spoil any of it because he's here with us today, and I really want to throw it straight to him because he'll be able to say it way better than I do. Nathan, thank you so much for joining us today on the podcast. I'd love to throw it straight to you. Why don't you give a quick introduction to yourself and tell the audience who you are and what you do?
Yeah, well, I'll give the traditional thanks for having me on, guys. It's great. Thanks very much. And I feel like a stoic Brit in between two extraordinarily articulate Americans. So I'm going to do my best here. Okay.
It's going to be amazing. It's going to be great.
We feel the exact opposite. Opposite
oh,
of
no.
what you just said.
Yeah, your accent levels up the podcast. Our listenership will go up.
Really? Can you imagine? I mean, just take the moon landing, for example, and if a Brit actually said that, it'd be like, oh, we're here, made it, whereas,
yeah, you're right.
You know what I mean? Whereas you've got this great phrase that is just, anyway, I'll try and be as articulate as I can. I'm Nathan, by the way, everyone who's wondering. Yeah, Nathan Ott, Chief Polisher and co-creator of the GC Index. Spent most of my life helping organizations with the talent, people and teams to drive better productivity, well-being, and just a better experience of working with people. And I feel a bit of a fraud, I have to say, because I know we're going to talk about it. I feel a bit of a fraud saying I'm the co-creator of the GC Index because it's been a journey. I had an idea in 2012, 2013, that with organizations asking for a different type of talent, something that they weren't getting, someone to make a change. And that started this research, and we'll probably delve into this, these people called game changers. Lots of research, lots of study, which launched this thing called the GC Index, which we're going to talk about in 2017. That we launched it then, and I'm the vision apparently of this GC Index thing that's gone all around the world. But co-creator they call me. But it's been a journey because partners such as you, your clients, and we're still learning. So hopefully that was enough as an introduction for you guys.
It's so good, but I want I'm going to pull the thread. What is the GC Index for those that don't know?
Yeah, the GC Index, if we just get the term out of the way, it's an organometric. It's the world's first organometric, and people say, what the hell is that? Think of it as an organization metric. It fundamentally measures how individuals are energized to contribute to their role, to a team, to an organization. It's not just how people approach work, however, it's also how people approach life, relationships. And so it's a system. It's a system of how people are energized to make an impact. People will confuse it with a personality test or a test that we've all been accustomed to. I shouldn't say seduced by. They do have their place. Yes. Sorry, that was. But we have been seduced by them, haven't we? Really, over the last 50 years.
Right.
To be honest. And we're very pro personality tests, or the good ones. We're very pro them because they bring some really good insights. But the GC Index, it fundamentally measures how people want to approach work. Dan, you'll know there's some work that you love and George hates, and there'll be some work that George loves and you hate. You've still got to do it, but it takes different types of energy. We measure that in a systemic way, and we can talk about it. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Nathan, go back to the original problem if you a little bit. You mentioned the journey of going back to 2012, 2013. And as George mentioned, we picked up your book. It's great. There's a lot in there. So, and it talks about how that got started. Maybe give us the abridged version of how the game changer ended up. Where did the name come from? How did it come to be?
Abridged version. I'll do my best. I'll get 12, 13 years. It started off with in 2012, 2013. It was in the world of VUCA. You might remember that. And, organizations needed to change, grow, digital change, globalization. And they were looking for people to help drive that change within their organization or outside that organization. And they would say, people with the X factor, the pixie dust, the je ne sais quoi, get me 10 Steve Jobs and my company's going to be amazing, that sort of stuff. And you think, oh, God. So we thought we'd try and measure it. We'd try and measure what that is. And so we called these individuals game changers. They were different from what we've been accustomed to of a traditional leader or a high potential. They were different. And so that's how we called them game changers. And everyone will have a view of what a game changer is. But we thought we'd do this properly. Fast forwards about 3 or 4 years of study, we launched DNA of a Game Changer 2015. People can still read that. It's there. And then we took that out onto the circuit and people loved it. We like these people. We've got these people. We want these people. And we know they're different. But then what happened was, because the core constructs that underpin the GC Index are original imagination, not I imagine Kansas City be nice in the summer, our original imagination, and obsession. Yeah. And my Dr. John, a co-creator, has got a clinical background. So imagination, obsession. People were asking us, well, what if you're not a game changer on these constructs? What are you? Well, don't know. We didn't even really think about it. This is big businesses asking us for this. So we went back and studied further. And what we found was quite exciting, that on these constructs of imagination, obsession, we're measuring this thing we call proclivity. Some people love the word proclivity. Some people hate it. We're not going to be vanilla. So if you don't like it, think of energy for impact. Yeah, how are you energized? And that's how it started. And we launched in 2017 and said, well, do you think our baby looks good, world? And they seem to like it. And we still don't know what we found here, if I'm being perfectly honest. We're 10 years on, and you're constantly finding, other clients are constantly finding, other partners are constantly finding ways of using it. And that's the exciting bit. So there we are. Hopefully that was abridged enough.
Yeah, no, it's really good. What are you, or over that time period of 2017 launching and then getting into now, what have you found in your study, in your research, or just even anecdotes you get from clients or partners that the GCI provides that maybe some of those other assessments we've been seduced by, where do they fall short? Because I've taken, as a GCologist, I've taken numerous folks through, and you always get, I've taken assessments before. And there's some great ones out there, Strength Finders, Myers-Briggs, though. Anyways, I have other things about the Myers-Briggs, but Strength Finders, DISC, all sorts of things. What have you found that's really making, we'll use the word impact on these teams from the GCI that maybe others fall short?
Aha moments about how people fit into their world. That's the GC Index has been called often now the Matrix. It's been called how the world works. The language within, we all know the language of what the GC Index is. We know it innately, but we will describe it differently. What the GC Index does is brings it to the surface. So I remember if it helps us, you're supposed to be able to explain it to an 8-year-old, right? If you're keeping it simple or something like that. And I remember being on holiday with my kids. My eldest at the time would have been 10, 9, and my youngest at the time was 2 or 3, and she's stuffing pasta in her mouth, and like a baby would do with her hands, and the toddler would do. And she said, "Daddy, why you work so much?" Okay, I'm on holiday. I'm why you work so much, which was not, that's another conversation. But it was my 9, 10-year-old went, "It's the GC Index, Emily." What? She'd have a big sort of mouthful of pasta. What? And she said, "Well, look, some people have cool and crazy ideas. Yeah. Some people just want to make sense of stuff. Some people just want to get stuff done. Some people want to make stuff brilliant, and some people want to just do stuff with all other people. And then we're all bits of that." And I went, "Wow, okay, he gets it." And that's fundamentally what.
That's so good.
And
That's
Well, that
awesome.
was actually the start of our young people index as well. I thought, so we've got a young people index for 13 to 18 year
Oh
olds.
yeah,
But
yeah.
that was the moment, because then what happened, I came back to the UK, I bumped into Helen, who sort of, and we developed the young people index off of that. But the point being is that, yeah, that's it. It's simple as that. Do you get energized by cool ideas? Do you get energized by making sense of stuff? Do you get energized by getting stuff done, making stuff brilliant, or working for others, or a combination thereof? And that's what the GC Index is. So it's that simplicity, Dan, to get to your question, is the accessibility and the other awareness as well. We talk about self-awareness. Personality talks very good at giving you self-awareness. It's the other awareness that's hard. You mentioned MBTI. I've done MBTI a few times. I've got, there's people who like it, people don't like it. But if I say to Dan, Dan, I'm a game changer. We know what we're game changer, cool ideas, and you're an implementer. We know how to work with each other. If I say I'm ISTJ and you're an ENTP, what? Really hard, right? So it's that sort of accessibility, language everyone knows, probably the biggest success, why it's been so successful.
Well, Nathan, I think one of the things that for us, when we first went through it, it was that self-identification and team identification that was kind of a breakthrough for us versus like, okay, well, now we know what everyone is. That's great. But what does it mean for a polisher to work with a strategist? That's not quite transparently in my own personal story. So I'm very high strategy, but also have an implementer and the game changer, kind of my three primary areas, which is, definitely fits with kind of my role, my founder vision, looking at the horizon, where we want to go, what we want to do. Polisher is like a 2, maybe a 1, depending on the day. Right. So what would happen is on my growth team, Julie, who's amazing, she's very high polisher, and her and I were just butting heads and we didn't know why.
Yeah.
And we went through this, Dan took us through the assessment. We were able to kind of look at, okay, what does this mean? What strengths can you pull on here? What strengths can she pull on there? How do we better communicate with each other? And quite transparently, what I literally did is the founder sitting next to what was an intern become, marketing manager. I was like, we're going to sit right next to each other. Literally our desks are going to be pulled together and we are going to sit right next to each other and learn how to just be like a powerhouse team. And we've been doing that for 2 years now. And we still sit right next to each other. And we're like, it's just the yin and yang of being able to almost execute on almost anything now because of that. And that, again, it was a tool that unlocked that was even possible, because there seemed almost like an impasse at one point. Like, I can't work with you.
And that's, there's a couple of things there. So one is we value people for what they do, not what they intend. And we see their actions, we see their personality, we see their learned behaviors. We see that, it's visible, but it doesn't get to where their intentions are, right? And so what the GC Index does, it gets to what the real intentions are of that individual. But we know this. You probably, you know when you've worked with someone for 6 months or a year, you know what to expect of them. Now, you might butt heads and not work together that long, right? Okay, but if you start working well together, right, I can rely on Dan for this, I can rely on George for this. He's not going to do that. George is not going to do that. You sort of know, but it takes you 6 months, a year to get there, right? And that's the real aha. It's right, now you know that your colleague was a high polisher, so values doing things well, not going to settle for good enough, will potentially be quite critical and, worry about making things the best they can be, whereas you don't have the energy for that. Now you know that. Great. Yeah. But it's that, and that's what I meant before. It's a language we already know. We're just surfacing it. Yeah,
it's really good.
Yeah, it's the idea, and you talk about it a lot, Nathan, is the idea of a common language. And it fast forwards conversations of whether it's feedback or, conflict resolution or how do we work better together. It fast forwards conversations to the day a team is created versus 6, 12, 18 months of working together and really just kind of grinding on one another. Because what the GCI does, at least one thing I love that it does, is it depersonalizes feedback. If George and I sit across from the table and we did one of those impact conversations of why is this an impactful relationship? Why is this work relationship important? And if you're using that in the context of your profile, you can understand where are we going to work well together? Where are we not going to work well together? Where might we clash? Where do we need to cut each other some slack? And it's not personal. And I think that's the great thing. It's, you're doing this because you're just that way. Well, no. You're doing this because you want to make things perfect. That's how you see your work. If you're a polisher, you want to make things great and brilliant. It's like, okay, I now know how to work with that. And the aha moments in teams, when that happens, it's like, oh my gosh, that makes total sense. I now know why it is when we work together, we have friction or we have frustration, and there's that impact within those teams.
Yeah, and it is that, it's that depersonalization, which is, and you, for those that do or don't know about the GC index, but you get a score from 1 to 10 on each. That they, in each of the, so that gives us, there's 5 roles. I've sort of mentioned those loosely here. Game changer and strategist, unstructured ideas, structured ideas, implementer and polisher, getting things done well, and playmaker, people in the middle. Some are all bits of these, and you get a score of 1 to 10 for each, right? Now, just because you've got a 1 doesn't mean you're not any good at it. It just means don't leave me here for too long, right? Okay, you know what I mean? Right. So
Yeah.
we're not saying George might have. I think you should have a 2 on polisher. Say it doesn't mean George hasn't got standards. Just don't leave him there incrementally improving stuff.
And especially not alone. Don't leave me alone, because I'll need like a team of people around me.
Exactly that, right? But then those low scores can be big strengths as well. Yeah. I mean, that's the point of the G. It's not that high is good, low is bad. And I think it's really important. We do call it this word proclivity. As I said, some people love, some people don't. But we don't want to call it preferences. I think preferences would indicate you've got a choice. And you see someone with a high score somewhere on the GC index, that isn't a choice. They can control it, they can manage it, but it's not a choice. Yeah, it's a little bit. I like a lot of soccer, right? Well, I can't believe I've done that. I like football. All right, okay. We use our feet. You might want to call it soccer, but we it's football.
The rest of the world calls it football.
You genuinely use your feet.
We use our feet.
You genuinely use your feet.
That's why we call it football. Anyway,
we're getting ready to host the World Cup, though.
I know. I'm looking forward to this. We're going. England are going. So looking forward to it. Yeah. That's it.
Yep.
And so I was going to say, but the point I was going to sort of say is, if you've got that striker, goal scorer, when they walk onto a pitch, their natural energy is to help impact the team by scoring goals. That's what they want to do. Now they can have to learn. They can probably defend, or they can probably create play, but they naturally want to go there, right? Now, when the team wants to try and score goals, that's a good thing. Now, if the team is 1-0 up with 2 or 3 minutes to go, and they have to come back and defend, and they don't want to, it's not a good thing. So a high score. Yeah. So it's that sort of analogy in business terms, where high scores can be good, low scores can be good, and vice versa.
Yeah.
If I think about our audience that listens to this podcast, it's people of product, right? We're talking about a lot of folks that are building technology solutions, innovation solutions, software solutions, mostly. There are a few exceptions to that rule, but a lot of product managers that are oftentimes, from a role definition, or maybe this is what you're supposed to do, right? You talked about the intent versus like what you do, is that they're supposed to be able to kind of pull the threads between business, user experience, user understanding, and then technology capabilities of what can and can't be built. Of course, now with AI, who knows what can and can't be built? We're all on that adventure together. But we're talking about a group of folks that many times are being asked to be a playmaker when they may not even be a playmaker, which we actually do learn a lot about when we talk to some of our clients and we say, well, you've got your product managers you're asking them to do playmaker activities, 40 hours a week plus, and there's not a playmaker bone in their body, right?
Yeah.
And then, or you're asking someone to say, well, I wish my team was more strategic and they were looking further ahead and they're game changers and that they're dreaming up new universes. And yet they are implementers and polishers. They just like to build good code. It's been an incredibly useful tool to not just bank on, I hired a person with a role that has a job description, and then I expect, or I'm disappointed because they're not meeting my expectations inside the organization, but then come to find out, here's an answer why.
Yeah.
It's a really powerful tool.
Because it is built, the GCNX language, and this wasn't intentional, it just happened, right? Okay, that's what I keep saying. I do think this.
You uncovered something, you revealed it, right? Yeah.
But it is built on like a high level business cycle, project cycle, and people get into it, because you move away from people. You start with using the GC index to understand what activities do we need. So it's like you just mentioned, what does this team need to do? They've got to deliver quality code and deliver it quickly, right? In our world, implement a polisher. Great. Yeah. Well, let's give some people that have got they need the skills, they need the experience, right? So it's not the only step, but let's put the people in there that want to just deliver code and deliver quality code. Let's find, because that's when they walk through that door, that's what they're going to want to be doing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, if whether they're introverted, extroverted, accommodating, diligent, whatever personality trait you want to use, fine, that might help their own individual development. But let's start with this is where you're energized. Let's put you there. And a great example actually was my last great example is a bank, because it's a European bank. We do have they're not sometimes not as big as yours, but this one's quite big. Yeah. Oh, those cute little European banks. No, I'm teasing. Right. There was the chief procurement officer, and they were rolling out the global procurement system, and they were doing an upgrade. They were looking at, or they didn't, were trying to do an upgrade global, because it's quite a big project. And the challenge was that they hadn't embedded the version 1 in particularly well, and it was getting very buggy, a lot of complaints. But everyone was looking at this new version 2, and no one was like looking at version 1. And so we did sort of the leadership team, and yet the leadership team come out quite quickly as game changer strategist energy, excited by new ideas, excited by the future. Weren't really paying any attention to this version 1 that we had to polish and implement and embed, because it's going to take us another year to do the upgrade. And he went, it was perfect, because now I can organize my team. I segment the team, game changer strategists heavy on version 2, 3 or 4 of them, 5 or 6 of them, like a small amount. And then all my implement of polisher energy was put into making sure that bugs were fixed, and playmaker, the customers were happy. And he said, if we didn't have that, we would have been in a mess, because and so it's the practical way that we can use it, which is helpful. Yeah, it's not the team is rubbish. Not the team's not any good. It's not the team's not quality. It's just when they walk through that door at 9 o'clock on a Monday morning, they've got to go to energy to do something, and that's all we pick up.
Yeah. So a lot of our audience, product leaders, and you just mentioned a leadership team, and at least here, and a lot of the people we interact with, clients, you're always looking on how to optimize your teams. How can we make them work better? Whatever we define as better, faster, more intentional, whatever that may, better together. What are some of, especially through your work at the GCI, what are some of the common or biggest misunderstandings that leaders may have when they're trying to optimize their teams without understanding energy for impact?
Well, they'll do a number of things. They'll pick who's available, right? Firstly,
capacity.
That's a simple one. Now, so when we use the GC index in that perspective, you need to pick those people. We give you another data lens so you can help manage them that way.
Right.
Okay. They'll make the mistakes by just picking. Could be based on level, seniority, could be now, and you have to build teams based on other criteria other than the GC index, right? Okay, so but that tends to be the way our own opinion, gut feel. I mean, I had a team. It wasn't a tech team, but it was a team that had to drive through the culture of the organization, and they wanted this. As they always do, collaborative, free thinking culture, all the good stuff that we aspire to. And they picked their team, and it was 85% implementer heavy. I mean, 85%.
Yeah.
And you're like,
wow.
And because they said, oh no, we don't need the GC index. Don't need the GC. No, don't need the GC index. Don't need to do that. It's okay. All right, no problem. We already had that data. So what? You've got the data. Why don't you use that to pick the team? No. We know best. Okay. So you show them, well, this is what you want this team to do, and this is what you picked. And that was a mic drop moment for them. They went, aha, now I get it. Now I've been spinning our wheels for 6 months. I can see it now. I understand. So it's, those mistakes. But I wouldn't want to call those mistakes, Dan. That's just the way that people they just have to, right? I mean, you mentioned, certain product owners need to drive through consensus collaboration, be people-led. I mean, quite simply, if someone has less than a 5 on Playmaker and you want them to be relationship people-led, they're going to struggle. They're going to need some support. It's not going to be their natural go-to. I've got a 2 on Playmaker, right? Which is the people one. I'm a lovely bloke. I like collaboration.
You seem nice.
I'm
a
nice
great.
guy. We'll go for beers. I'll ask you how your weekend was. We'll go out for dinner. I love it. Yeah, I'm a really nice guy. But if you don't do what I've asked you to do the first time, you slow down some of my ideas, it burns me inside. Yeah, it absolutely burns me. I'll get, the team will go to me, once, we've got a new idea. Yeah, should we ask the rest of the team? I'm like, no, don't ask the rest of the team. I can't wait. I don't want to wait a whole week for this. Yeah. Why do I want their stupid opinions for? That's what's going on in my head, right? And they know, yes.
Uh-huh.
So that's because that's not where my energy is. And if you're putting someone like me and I have to go and listen to everyone's opinion, I have to make sure everyone's happy, I have to make sure, that's hard work for me. Really hard work. It takes more energy than it gives. So it's that, but if I have to do it, I'll learn how to smile and have patience and all the skills that must come along with it, but it's not natural. It's really hard, So that's, I suppose, what I'm just to pick up on your example earlier from the product lead that needs to lead from people.
I'm curious, what do you see the difference about, and maybe there isn't a difference. Maybe it's actually, this is kind of the ultimate common denominator do you see a difference way that leadership perceives the GCI versus more maybe individual contributors or folks down the tiers, if you will? Do you see that there's a different way of interpreting it, accepting it, adopting it, avoiding it, or whatever that might be, depending on if you're in a leadership roles for all the way down to folks that are, in our world, writing lines of code or having an AI write lines of code for them? So.
Yeah, I mean, it's no, not really. So the GC index is fundamentally, whether you're a Fortune CXO or a kid in a developing country, you've got energy to make an impact. People don't get out of bed to be impotent. They get out of bed to be potent. We know that, right? Okay. And so all we're doing is tapping into that. It's whether it's executive, we typically start at the exec team because then that makes it easier to filter through.
Yeah, organizational buy-in, right?
Yeah,
exactly.
The usual stuff. And the strategists love me to say that because, they like to start at the top and work their way down, right? Don't you, George? I don't really care. I'll start anywhere. But the point being, but seriously, you do work through it. It gives people a lot of relief. Yeah. So if you think of one of the roles is strategist, as you know, and obviously people do confuse that with leadership, that I need to be strategic or be a strategist, right? But you see so many successful CEOs or leaders with low strategist scores because they don't have to over agonize. They'll say things like, just give me the top 3 bullet points. That's all I need to know. Do you know what I mean? Whereas those with bigger strategist scores like to...
I'll waste all the time in the world talking through things that are unnecessary.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly that.
That was a big thing. I remember you saying that, Nathan, probably about 4 or 5 months ago on a training call, is that some of the biggest friction you'll see in leadership teams is when they are heavy strategists.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Because the question is like, whose idea wins?
Yeah.
Whose idea do we align to? And if George has to say, it's his idea.
It's always mine.
We align to his idea.
Yeah.
And the reason that stuck is because our team is very heavy strategists.
Yeah, right.
And
partly that's what we're selling too. I mean, like part of the services of Crema is strategy. It's like by definition, we're actually selling that we help with strategic activities. So that it makes sense that would be.
And that's what the clients value and buy from you, right? Okay, that's what.
Exactly.
Exactly that. But let's just pull that string a little bit more, right? So if I've got a bunch of high strategists in our world, so in GC Index terms, so they want to make sense of the world, they want things to be clear, that have already worked it out, they have their own model in their head. Okay, and they can be very disruptive because if strategists think that they should start at the beginning of everything because they think that's a good place to start, all right? I mean, extraordinary to someone who's got low strategy for me. I'll start anywhere, but they really do need to start at the beginning and get conceptual clarity. Now, if you've got 3 or 4 people like that, but they've got different views of the world, that's where your problem comes.
Yeah.
But if we didn't have the GC Index, the conversation would be based on personality. You're stupid. You don't understand. You're not listening. You think you know it all. Whatever it should be. Yeah? Those sorts of things. Whereas we can go, you're all a bunch of strategists. You've all got a fixed view of the world. You've all got a fixed view of the world, but you're going to have to get aligned. That is not the same as getting agreement. Okay?
Yeah, good word.
Not the same. We need to be aligned. But it just takes the personality out of it much easier.
Yeah. And it forces teams to also sometimes get very intentional on how they're going to make decisions in those. So when we get into a boardroom and we're all strategizing and you have a model, I have a model, what's the way we're going to make this decision? How are we going to behave? What are the questions we need to ask ourselves as guardrails on those boundaries, knowing that we can probably spend hours and hours on a topic until we all feel clear, knowing that may not happen. And so what are those guardrails you put in as part of a team in order to guide that conversation or guide that team?
And it's typically, obviously there's a personality lens, there's a skill set lens that goes over all of this, but typically they want things to be clear. It doesn't always have to be their idea. So I literally, before this call, I'm watching 2 strategists do big long emails to each other. And I'm thinking, oh my God, they're arguing their point. And then I thought, this is getting a little bit tense. And then one of them went, oh no, he's right, actually. I can see what you're saying. Yeah, that actually makes sense. And it was contrary to what that strategist initially started, but he went, oh no, that makes sense. And it was fine.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, it felt, oh my God, they're really loggerheads, and but they're just both pursuing this need for clarity. And I left them to it, of course, because it was a bit dull for me. But it was just that notion of, yeah, that makes sense now. That's all it was.
Yeah. So one question I have, I've been thinking a lot about this recently, and we wouldn't be a forward-thinking podcast if we didn't at least mention AI.
Okay.
So one of the things that, leaders are talking about constantly, and we read in the headlines, the different types of jobs that AI will replace, the different types of jobs that will most likely be created, new types of work, new roles because of AI. And a lot of that is around skills. So my skills might get either augmented or replaced. And so what skills do I need to, and that's really important. But with the GCI, where can the game changer index come in and help? And that's a question I'm still trying to suss out in my own brain, Nathan. But since we have you here in a captive audience, I'd love to get your take of if you have a group of people, you have a large group of people that maybe fit in that camp, maybe they're a little fearful of that, or maybe it's actually happened. Where could the game changer index help them in a future forward thinking type mindset?
Yeah, I mean, firstly, I mean, I could be wrong here. This might not age well in about 2 years' time, but let's see. I don't think necessarily the biggest threat to people if their jobs is AI. I think their biggest threat is other people that use AI effectively, right? So I think that's kind of the first thing. Now, of course, there are some jobs which are completely just going. I mean, the one is, we used to use translation services a lot. We're a global business, don't really use them anymore. So those booths at the back, or those for example, I mean, these are basic things, and there'd be a lot of grunt work. But I think in terms of how the GC index helps people, I think it firstly gives that self-awareness. It gives self-awareness of how they want to contribute and can contribute, where they're energized to contribute. I think that's really important, because self-awareness brings self-confidence. Yeah. So I've just lost my job to a piece of AI, but I'm a game changer playmaker. Well, that these are the sorts of opportunities that can arise for example. So I think that don't underestimate that, giving that self-confidence to somebody in this quite uncertain world as well. And sometimes what we use AI, so we've got our own AI built into the GC index. It's called ChatGCT. It's like ChatGPT but better. Okay. Well,
See what you did there.
I'm a polisher, right? So I just take something and make it better. That's what we do.
Absolutely.
Okay? So ChatGPT, what that is able is really sort of taking all of that data about people, so my own data, and I can ask questions of it. Now, obviously, what I can't do to a translator, to use my example, is sort of go, we do need to go and find another job, I'm afraid, because, or move around to places that don't have any internet at the moment, whatever it might be, because there are some things where you will just get displaced, but the GCNS can help with just confidence, self-awareness. Yeah, I can do, can do attitude.
Yeah, I love that answer. And even in the GCI, the equation for impact is proclivity plus skill set equals impact. And so, you have the two sums and then you have the equalizer there. And I think for the longest time, this is just my thought. I don't know. I don't have any proof of this, but, folks have maybe spent their entire career building a particular, they have a set of skills, whatever that may be. And that's kind of defined their work. It's like, I am a analyst, and these are the skills I've went to school for, I studied for, I listened to podcasts, I got mentorship, but that's only one half of the impact equation. And so what the GCI, at least recently, we've been using it since 2020, is it kind of gave the other half of like, oh, I've got these skill sets, but now I know what gets me actually energized and what I'm wired to do. Some might say a natural gift. This is what, now I can combine the two and I'm making even a greater impact. I think we might be entering into, for some folks, where if they can understand what they're wired to do, and they know they still want to make a contribution, the thing that might have to change is, what are the new skill sets I need to develop? And so that is
transferable skill sets.
Yeah, exactly right. And I think that's I wouldn't say skill set is easier to develop than understanding where, how you're wired. But it's like, okay, if I'm wired in a way to where I can, there's this training program, or there's steps I can take to develop those new skills, my impact can stay the same. I'm just doing it in a different way.
Well, you raise a good point. So, I mean, the GC index, I do the GC on a lot of people that have retired or about to retire. So this is nothing to do with AI. This is the natural, I've left the world of work.
Right.
What do I do now? What do I do now? And when you sort of shape what they're energized by doing, they start to come to their own realization. I mean, this is a really sort of bad example, but well, not bad, but huge playmaker individual, very successful and was around big teams, was around collaboration with partners, and now he's retired. But he got his energy from that people interaction. And so he started to go, and he started to do more work with the church. He started to do more work with local schools, started to work with local communities, fed those energies. Yes, he had the certain skill sets, and I spoke to him a year later, and that GC just helped me unlock that nervousness of getting retired, because it gave me a view of this is what gives me energy, and so
that's great.
So good. I'm quite literally thinking of, I'm on a couple boards, and one of the guys that's on is the chair of one of the boards. He's the chair of 4 or 5 boards, like publicly traded companies, all the way down to nonprofits or churches. Right. Yeah. And he's retired. He's retired from his like formal, career job. Yet he's doing more work now than he was when he was in his career, probably. But I could see going, oh yeah, that he found that for himself, where he goes, well, that's the room where I get energy, And
they'll start. They'll go. He started the conversation. Look, Nathan, I've done loads of tests. I'm 65. What are you really going to tell me? All that good stuff. I said, look, just relax. Just listen. This is a bit different. And at the end of it, he went spot on. I had another individual, 67, that he got brought back in, and a huge game changer. And he was crying. He said, I never knew this. I wish I'd known this 30, 40 years ago.
Yeah.
Right? Because I've struggled with this all my life, but now I know, and this is me. I said, yeah, okay, cool. And he's 67, right? I said, you're always learning. So, don't worry if you're 85 or 90, you can still take it and above. Don't panic. I'm not going to cap you out at 67. It's okay. But it's that. Sorry, you can always cut this out, right? So, but when
no, it's great.
One of my favorite programs was one of our partners down in South Africa was running the GC index on really heavily physically disabled people, right? Okay, to the point where they're using their computer to not through voice but through brain sort of technology. I know more about technology than me, and so really severely, but they still wanted to make work and make an impact, right? And you saw their GC index profiles coming out. We had a big polisher, we had the implementer, we had a big, and they just, this is me, because they couldn't necessarily always talk, they couldn't always, and it's just that they still wanted to contribute, and they, rather than being that person in the bed, whoever, John, that's sad, no, he wants to get on and do stuff. And, he was doing admin stuff and other work and stuff they were doing on their PCs, and the technology was there for them. So
amazing.
It's that sort of stuff we're tucking into here, which is really quite exciting. Anyway.
What an incredible, I mean, you probably hear this and you get to see it firsthand, but I guess taking the 2 steps back and hearing it from, someone who doesn't know you all that well is like, how good, right? That this thing that you uncovered in some ways, I mean, maybe it's always been there. I think that's what you're saying, is like, we didn't know, we fell into it. We found it.
We did find it,
yeah. And what you found was something that can help everyone from a youth program all the way through to a retiree or someone who is disabled, all the way to the executive of Fortune, whatever. What a beautiful thing. And it's not just to the end of that we can do more stuff, right? It's to the end of that you can actually lean into the energy that is naturally who you are, and that will help others around you. And that, won't that be a better thing for the world? Like my mantra here at Crema is, we're in the business of people. We happen to design and build apps.
Yeah.
Right. And at the end of the day, that's what you're talking about. Yeah. It's like, we're all just people trying to figure this all out, which I think is a beautiful thing. I mean, like, I think that's why this podcast is called People of Product, not Product Managers Inc.
Yeah.
Right.
And not people and product.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Yeah.
So thank you for that work. That's awesome that you have been able to lean in yourself to doing that.
Well, I find it really liberating for myself, and I'll probably close on at this. Is my other business colleagues. The business I had where we discovered the GC Index is very corporate. It does high level senior executive search and team moves for the big four, the strategy firms, and all with MBAs from Wharton and Harvard, and I don't know, and they don't talk like me. Right, okay, and my colleague was just like that, three-piece suit, very cut glass, not cut glass, but very good English accent.
Yeah.
And he used to say, he used to rock up to, I don't know, senior partner in a strat firm. Before we used to go into the meeting, he used to go, "Remember Nathan?" And I say, yeah, I won't be myself. I remember it. Seriously. Now they liked me, right? They liked me, but I'm not, if you can see the GC model, I'm not on that structured side of the model, what we expect business and leaders to be. I was on the other side, and I struggled with that for years. I really struggled with it, and I didn't fit. But now I know this, just be myself. And that's why I call myself Chief Polisher and not CEO, because we have a view of what CEOs are, and that's not me.
Yeah, it's good. Really good.
Well,
I hate to do this. We have to land the plane. We've already run our time.
Cool.
I do. We talked about it before, but I do want to just give a moment when you see teams that are adopting the GCI. Is there anywhere that you go, man, they missed what it was for, or they tried to take it too far, or it got abused in some way, or whatever that is?
Yeah.
Where are the guardrails, even as you think about the best practice of where it belongs?
The two biggest, probably three biggest mistakes. It's this notion of 1 to 10. 10 doesn't mean good, 1 doesn't mean bad, right? That's the first thing. Again, secondly, this is not a measure of personality, and it's not a measure of skills. So we're not going to be able to tell you if you're a nice person or not. We're not going to be able to tell you if you're any good at anything. And that's the mistake that people use that.
Yeah.
And it's most effective when used with other data or processes or projects. That's when it's most useful. The GC Index on its own is helpful. But for example, if you've got a project methodology or an innovation process or a change process, whatever, use it in conjunction with that. Okay, not separate to it, because 1 and 1 makes 3.
Love that. Love that. That's a great way to round out. Well, Nathan, thank you so much. I often tell people that we really do vet who we want to have on the podcast, because we really want people that are trying to make an impact.
You don't say that to all the boys, right?
The ones that we want to like us. But no, I really mean it. Like, thank you for the work that you're doing. We've benefited from it here at Crema, at our organization, and now we're passing it along to our clients and the folks that we work with. And it is, like you said, you've seen it over the many years that you've been working on this. It's the aha moments are really the best.
Yeah.
I mean, it is a very, like, finally, this will help you. And there's still lots of work to be done. Like, the assessment isn't the end,
No.
right? The work is everything after that.
Yeah.
But thank you for the work that you do. And with that, I really want to kind of roll out the red carpet for you. Where can people learn more about you, about the GCI, and kind of connect to the work that you're doing, and maybe even your book as well, which is
So on LinkedIn, I'm Nathan Ott. There is another Nathan Ott out there. He's an American baseball player or something. He's probably better looking than me. So that's not me. I'm Nathan Ott in London. The GC Index website is www.thegcindex.com. You can find out. And we've got a couple of books. If you're into coaching and coaching people, we've got our original book was Coaching Me, Coaching You. Aha. And we've just launched the psychology and dynamics of human energy, which, as you say, that's sort of 10 years of work in a book. The psychology and dynamics of human energy, it is available on Amazon, Warstones, and free if you use Kindle Plus.
Thoughtful. Yeah, it's incredibly thoughtful. Great read. Yeah, it's a lot to chew on. I'll be honest. Like, there's some things that you might want to read a couple times.
Yeah, it's meant that you dip in and dip out of it. There's stuff on teams, there's stuff on projects, there's stuff on sort of recruitment, there's all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But and while I've got the opportunity, thanks very much for our continued partnership. It's great having you guys, and you're always pushing us forwards as well. So and that's how we learn. So thank you so much.
Love that. Well, Nathan, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. Dan, thanks for the co-host today. This was fun. It's nice to have you back.
Absolutely. Yeah, it was great. Nathan, always a pleasure. You're fantastic. And just in the way you sign off even your emails, do good, be great. It's hard not to appreciate you.
That's all we can do. Thanks, guys. Thanks very much. See you soon.
All right. Thanks, y'all.